What's up, guys, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Our first question this week comes from Luke Bruton, who asks how I think Snoke's backstory will eventually be explored. Is it going to be in a book, or an animated series, a comic, a standalone movie? What's it going to be? I would assume that the most likely scenario is that it's a combination of all of the above, but I would keep an eye out in any story that features Luke set in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. The novelization for The Last Jedi hinted pretty strongly that Luke and Snoke met, or at least Snoke contacted him at some point during that time while Luke was exploring the history of the Jedi, and Snoke basically wanted to confuse him. This was before he was Supreme Leader, and that it was known that he was an evil guy, even though if you looked at his face, you should just know instantly. But he basically wanted to try to divert Luke's goal of restarting the Jedi Order. He wanted to convince him to do something else. So I would love to see Luke's story in that time period explored in a book series or potentially an animated series, so one of those two formats would be my best guess. Zachary Zegan wants to know if I think Solo, a Star Wars story, will end with Han sitting down in the cantina to meet with Luke and Obi-Wan. That's actually how the Han Solo trilogy from Star Wars Legends by A.C. Crispin ended. The third book ends with them all meeting. And that was fine for the book, but I really hope they don't go that direction in the movie. And I don't think they will. It seems like Solo is taking place much earlier, before A New Hope. And I want this to be a pretty much standalone movie. I mean, yeah, we know Han, we know Chewie, we know Lando, we know the Falcon, but other than those familiar elements, I want it to be new. And I just don't want the anthology movies to get into this habit like what Rogue One did, which, again, it worked for Rogue One, but I just don't want every movie to lead into one of the episodic saga films. I just don't think that's a good habit to get into. KJ's Pitts asks if Poe Dameron will be a general in Episode 9. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happened. I mean, considering how few people are left in the Resistance, he's gotta be on the fast track for a promotion, and his entire arc in The Last Jedi was about learning to be a leader and not just a hero. Plus, I mean, the Rebellion promoted people for less, I would say. Han spent a year in Carbonite, and he still got a promotion to general. We have Lando, who was part of the Rebellion for a year or less, and he got promoted to a general because he apparently had one successful maneuver at the Battle of Tanab. So I think Poe Dameron has a longer service record. I think it would make perfect sense that he be a general in Episode 9 in the context of the story, especially if there is a time jump, which I have to assume will happen. Jake Ingle wants to know who shot first in canon. Was it Han or was it Greedo? I think Lucasfilm is doing their best to leave that open to fan interpretation. I think they know that that wasn't a well-received change in the special editions, and so in a lot of the adaptations of that story, they have specifically said that Han shot first. So it's kind of up to you. Do you want to go with what happened in the special edition of the movie, which I would say is the most canon version, that was George's vision? Even though I disagree with that, I think that his original intent was for Han to shoot first in A New Hope, and that he changed his mind. So I just think you can choose what you want to believe. I mean, I like Han shooting first, so that's the way I choose to perceive things. And I think Pablo Hidalgo even said once that there are multiple versions of this event. It's like it's being told from different points of view of people that saw it in the cantina, and the only thing we can say for sure is that two people sat down at a booth and only Han walked away. Who shot first? It's like, well, it's up to interpretation, I guess, and it's up to our audience, fan interpretation. So I think choose which one you want. If for some reason you like Greedo shooting first, I think that's perfectly fine to accept. Or if you want to go with the old Han shot first, that's just as valid. Jacob Gallup asks how my memory is so good when it comes to Star Wars. Not to toot my own horn, but it's not just Star Wars. I'm pretty good with all movie trivia. But yeah, Star Wars is a special case because there's so much trivia to cover, and this channel definitely helps. I mean, let's say that I am covering a new book. First, I read the book, and as I'm reading it, I take notes about what I'm going to make videos on. Then, for each of those videos, I have to take the notes and adapt them into a script. Then I have to read the script in a voiceover, and then I have to edit that voiceover. Then I have to listen to the voiceover or read the script and gather the appropriate visuals. Then I have to listen to the voiceover again and place all the visuals. And then I have to render it out and watch it to make sure it's all good. So I'm like seeing it all, I'm hearing it all again. By the time a video is actually done on a certain topic, I have covered it very extensively. It's pretty well drilled in there. So yeah, doing a channel like this definitely helps retain that information. That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon where I left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you access to extra Star Wars Explained content like audio commentaries for the films or roles on my Discord server, and the combined donations really go a long way in supporting the channel. On to YouTube questions. The Burger Hut 7 asks if Rex and R2 met each other on Endor and if they recognized each other, because we do have confirmation thanks to Star Wars Rebels that Rex was on Endor. If Nick Sant is retconned into Rex, then yeah, they were in very close proximity, and I expect that they probably did recognize each other, and maybe they had time to say hey and catch up a little bit. But Lucasfilm, kind of like the Han Greedo thing, it sounds like they're leaving that up to fan interpretation. They haven't said definitely one way or the other. I kind of tend to believe that Nick Sant is Rex, just because Dave Filoni said that that's something he thought would be fun, that he wanted to happen. But again, there's nowhere that definitely says that. I think it's up to interpretation. So if you like that idea, you can go with it. If you don't like that idea, then don't believe it. It's fine. Master Video Studios wants to know if I think Sabine stayed on Lothal after the events of Star Wars Rebels throughout the rest of the Galactic Civil War. We don't know for sure, but personally, I kind of doubt it. I don't see her staying there doing nothing for the rest of the war. Maybe she stayed for a little bit, and then once she felt confident that Lothal was safe and that the Empire wasn't going to retaliate, then she ventured back out. Maybe she used it as a home base, and she made sure to check in every few months, but I just don't see her doing nothing, while we know that Hera and Zeb and Rex and Chopper continued the fight. I mean, Zeb and Hera and I think Rex were all featured kind of in the background of this week's issue of the Star Wars comics. So I just don't see her saying, okay, you guys continue the fight, and I'm just going to sit here and make sure nothing else happens. I mean, she probably did feel some responsibility for Lothal, considering her relationship with Ezra. But if she knew that it were safe, I think she still would have been supporting the rebellion any way that she could. Kieran Spores asks if I think Luke and Ahsoka ever met after Return of the Jedi. I would be shocked if they never do. That just seems like a character interaction that Lucasfilm won't want to pass up. So the bigger question for me is, when is it going to happen and how? So maybe it could happen in the next animated series if it's like about Luke, or if it's a book, whatever series I proposed where Luke could potentially meet Snoke. It could happen then, or it could happen in a sequel to the Ahsoka book by E.K. Johnston. I don't know, but I do think it will happen eventually. Paul King wants to know why Imperial and First Order officers have British accents. I think the in-universe reason would be because that's a posh Coruscant accent. It's the way that the elite of the galaxy were known to talk, and that's the way the Empire and the First Order view themselves. It's elite. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually trained their officers to speak with that accent, even if it weren't natural. And we can see in the book Thrawn Eli Vanto does not have that accent, and he gets a lot of shade thrown at him for being obviously not from the core worlds. He's actually from Wild Space, so that's the best justification I can come up with. Misa, your humble servant, asks what aspect of the Old Republic I think Lucasfilm will explore first, and what aspect do I want them to explore first. I think we will probably get either the Mandalorian Wars or just the Jedi-Sith Wars, because either of those options would be very marketable. You'd either have recognizable Mandalorian armor, or it would be full of red and blue and green lightsabers. I think either of those would attract the eye of the more casual Star Wars fan, and honestly, I would be fine with either option. That's all the time I have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below, or sign up for Patreon to join up for our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.